Howdy folks, my name is Rand Fishkin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SparkToro, and I want to tell you a little bit more about how our audience intelligence and market research tool works. I think it's reasonable to have questions because this is a tool that does something very different to potentially research tools that you've used in the past. It's a different data set, it's a different style of searching, and the index's composition is also very different. It's not like a link graph tool that you might use in SEO or a PR database. It is built in a very unique way. Let's walk through that. So SparkToro is basically a large collection of individual people's profiles and their behaviors without the personally identifiable information, right? What we really care about is what people do online, what they follow and listen to and read, how they describe themselves, what podcasts they're sharing, what YouTube channels they're subscribing to, who they're following on Twitter, all that type of data. So when you perform a search in SparkToro, you are calling from this index of information, tens of millions of profiles, billions of individual social and web profiles that are all connected up. I'll talk about what that means. So here's my friend Casey. He's also SparkToro's co-founder, so I figured he'd be a good example for this. Casey is a father. He's got two girls and a lovely family, and they love to go skiing. So Casey has, a lot of social profiles. He's got a GitHub profile because he's a developer. I don't do any of the coding for SparkToro, thankfully. Otherwise, it wouldn't work at all. Casey does. He's got a GitHub profile, right? He's got a Twitter profile and a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page and an Instagram page and an About page on the web. And all of these things are connected up in SparkToro's database, right? SparkToro's identified that, okay, this guy, Casey, are these profiles, these URLs on all these platforms. And then we've crawled all those platforms, right? SparkToro's crawled all those places and munged all that information together into this sort of convenient data set about Casey in particular, words that are in his bio and profile. He might have words in there like engineer or co-founder or Seattle, right? He lives in the Seattle area. Which accounts Casey's following, what he shares, what he links to, what he talks about online, right? All of his tweets or Instagram shares, what his city and county location is, what his activity levels are like, how often does he post? He's not super active online. He's a little busy, but from all of this, we don't at SparkToro, and you don't as a searcher, right, or a marketer, need to know anything about Casey himself. You don't need his name. You don't really want to know his address for GDPR reasons and all sorts of other stuff, California privacy laws. We don't have that PII, right? We're not going to show that to anyone. In fact, if you search in SparkToro, you're never going to find Casey himself. You're only going to see an aggregated set of what many people like Casey have in their data sets, right? So essentially, here's what I'm talking about. You perform a search like my audience uses these words in their profile, right? And you say co-founder. Or my audience frequently talks about skiing, right? Casey talks about skiing. So if you were to go in there and put skiing in, and then add the location Washington State, right, which is where Seattle is, where Casey lives, where I live. And you hit this search button, what you're going to see is an aggregation of all these different profiles. In fact, I just did this search on SparkToro, and as of today, when I'm filming this, there are 7,184 profiles that match Washington State and skiing, right? They frequently talk about skiing. They're located in Washington. So it's an aggregation of all this data and then an aggregation of all these data points, the words and phrases in those 7,184 bios and profiles, the accounts that those 7,184 people follow. And then that aggregation is shown to you in the data of what the tool returns on the front end. So it says 9% of those 7,184 profiles in Washington State that talk about skiing follow Stevens Pass, right? They follow one of the Stevens Pass social accounts on one of their social profiles, at least, right, at minimum. 8% follow REI, the outdoor store that's based in Seattle, no surprise. Crystal Mountain, right, another skiing destination, 7% of those. And then, obviously, as a user of SparkToro, you might say, yes, okay, I want to reach out to Stevens Pass, I want to reach out to Crystal Mountain, I want to see if we can do a partnership or a sponsorship or get some advertising done on their websites or see if they'll amplify this content piece that we've put out or try and get on their podcast or see if we can cover their YouTube channel or pitch them on being an influencer. Whatever the case, right? Whatever your marketing tactics, these data points are super useful for your market research, for learning more about this audience. Not necessarily about Casey himself, but the entire group of thousands and thousands of people who, like Casey, are located in Washington State and talk about skiing. This is the underpinnings of SparkToro. And so as you're doing market research and audience intelligence with a tool, now you know how it works. Thanks. Take care.